Welcome to Thursday's devotions. We're in Exodus 38, thinking again about the tabernacle and some of the things within the tabernacle. And today we're thinking about the altar for the burnt offering. So we'll read at verse 1. He made the altar of burnt offering of acacia wood. 5 cubits was its length, and 5 cubits its breadth. It was square, and 3 cubits was its height. He made horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns were one piece with it, and he overlaid it with bronze. And he made all the utensils of the altar, the pots, the shovels, the basins, the forks, and fire pans. He made all its utensils of bronze. And he made for the altar a grating, a network of bronze under its ledge, extending halfway down. He cast 4 rings on the 4 corners of the bronze grating as holders for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. And he put the poles through the rings on the side of the altar to carry it with them. He made it hollow with boards. Amen. This altar for the burnt offering was the biggest of all the pieces of furniture in the tabernacle. It was 5 cubits by 5 cubits. That's 7.5 feet by 7.5 feet. The altar was also the first thing that you would have seen when you entered the outer court of the tabernacle. And all this was to emphasize that God could only be approached, he could only be worshipped through a sacrifice for sin. God is holy, God is pure, God is clean. We are unholy, we are impure, we are unclean because of our sin. And so the only way this God can be approached is through the sacrifice. It was a very visible reminder of that important biblical truth. And I hope you understand that. It's not by your good deeds. It's not by religious duty that you can come to God. It's through Jesus. It's through his sacrifice. Don't trust in yourself. But also that means that when we have failed, when we've let God down, we can still come to him. We can come to him with a repentant heart. We can come to him still because we come through Jesus. Through Jesus, sinners come to this holy God. Now the altar was made of acacia wood and was covered with bronze. Bronze is opposed to gold. Like for example, the lampstands were made of gold. And this speaks of how this was about an unpleasant sacrifice. Bronze became associated with sacrifice. And it speaks of how the glory of the parts of the tabernacle which are on in and closer into God's presence, they can only be reached through the sacrifice, can only be reached through Christ. The altar would have 4 horns on each of the corners. Horns were symbols of strength, salvation, and security in the Old Testament. Again, reminding people that their strength, their salvation, their security could only be found in the sacrifice. The sacrifice of the burnt offering, which points to the sacrifice of the cross and of Jesus. We need to always take time to consider the cross of Christ. Our only hope in life and death has to be Jesus and what he's done on that cross. Our sin has to be punished, and not that we would take that ourselves, or Jesus takes it for us at the cross of Calvary. Now, this altar, it had rings on it, it had poles on it, mentioned verse 5 to 7. Speaks of how it was to be carried, it wasn't to be touched. It speaks too of how it was always to be with the people. The place of sacrifice was always to be with them. And that points to, again, this constant reminder of God can only be approached through the sacrifice for sin. We can only approach God now through Jesus. But it also speaks of how the life of following the Lord is a life of sacrifice. Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me. Dying to self, dying to sin. It's not a light thing. It's not an easy thing to be a follower of Jesus. There's price, there's a cost. We must be ready for that. Jesus warned people who were getting very enthusiastic about him, count the cost. Count the cost to follow him. There's a sacrifice. But it's a sacrifice that is sweet. Because Paul talked about the fellowship of his sufferings. When we sacrifice for Jesus, we meet with Jesus in such a wonderful way. Oh, what a lot we learn from this bronze altar of sacrifice. Amen.